Hey guys, it's TrappedGT from Troikality, and I have been working on finding the best looting route in Tilted Towers for you guys, and I think I finally found it. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Now before we get too far into it, I do have a few nicknames for the buildings that I'll share with you. This here is the L's. Both because they look like L's, and also when I land there, I always take the L. And this is Texas, because it very obviously looks like Texas. So if you're playing solos, I would recommend you land at Texas to start. But if you're playing squads, maybe do 2 at the L's and 2 at Texas. But for now, we're just going to talk about solos. Now, why I recommend landing on Texas is because not a ton of people land there, and I mean, if you're the first one on the roof, you typically have, the advantage because you have a gun before everyone else because there's typically a gun up there. Now, another thing I like about Texas, it is usually jam-packed with loot. I come out of there almost with, pretty decent stuff for the start of the game and at no cost. I mean, it's really a low-risk, high-reward situation with this building in particular. And as you can see, I've got shield, I've still got full health, and I've got plenty of weapons to kill people with. And I've even gone through the basement. And so typically what I do is I come out here and I go in through this door and I pick up the rest of that loot. And it really depends whether I saw people land at the L's or not. I may or may not go over there, but for this instance I'm not going to because I saw people land there in the beginning. So after clearing Texas, you want to make your way over to this little hut thing, and sometimes a chest spawns in there. Not always. Like in this instance, there's nothing. And then I go over here, I go ahead and grab ammo, and then there's another little hut behind this van or bus, and sometimes a gun spawns there, and sometimes one doesn't. After I check that, I go over to the parking garage, and I check if there's anything on the roof, and then I go inside because a chest sometimes spawns in the bed of the truck. In this instance, there was not again, sadly. But after clearing the parking garage, we make our way over to the basketball courts. Now, I personally really like the basketball courts because it has a lot of potential, and generally people don't really loot it because they just don't know how much loot is actually in there. Generally, there's 2 chests, one right here, and look, I even pulled a scar out of that one. And then also, there's typically a chest behind this wall and in this room right here. Now at this point I haven't even had very good luck because about half the buildings I've checked haven't had a ton of loot. All my loot has come from 2 buildings so far, Texas and the basketball courts, and I am nearly fully looted up. The only thing left to get is a sniper. Now one part of the basketball courts people don't typically think about looting is the top, but I would highly recommend it because sometimes there's actually some really good stuff on top. Now this time there isn't anything special, but those grenades may come in handy later on. Now at this point you're pretty well equipped to be able to take on fights, and so from here it's kind of subject to change. And so typically what I do is this building right here to the right, I typically listen and see if anyone's in there, and if there is, I typically go in there and fight him. But in this instance there was a guy right there getting in the middle of a fight, so I decided to intervene and go ahead and try and take him on. And as you can see, I was successful. So now, not only are we completely looted up, but we also have a kill underneath our belt. Now from here, what I like to do is I like to go into this building right ahead of me because people typically forget to loot this, and I don't know, sometimes there's some pretty decent stuff in there, nothing typically too fancy, but... And so now at this point in the game, I'm more or less just kind of looking for kills. Alright, I'm kind of kill hungry because there hasn't been a ton of action yet, and so I'm on the hunt for blood. Now right about here is when I heard someone in the building next door to me, and so I decided to go ahead and push him. And I'm not quite sure how he didn't hear or see me before, but I managed to get the kill. And yes, I have awful aim, please don't make fun of me. And as you can see, I have the max number of medkits and 8 minis, and then even a purple scar. And I haven't even worked that hard to get it. It's been fairly easy for me because I haven't had to fight too many people for all of that loot. Now most people have to fight extremely hard to be able to pull this kind of loot from Tilted Towers, but me, I've had to do hardly anything to be able to get this kind of loot. As for everyone else in Tilted Towers, who most of which are dead at this point. Now here, I'm just kind of looking for leftovers, seeing if there's any leftover minis, shields, slurps, chests, really anything that someone might have left. Or maybe even chests like this one. And luckily, I pulled an RPG. And I was like, okay, I just won the game. Alright, most people at Tilted are dead. I'm completely looted. But sadly, I am no ninja. I am no mystic. I am just TrappedGT. And I am, honestly, not too good at this game. I mean, I do decent. So here, I spot someone. And honestly, I was kind of reluctant to go challenge him. But I decide, you know what? I'm TrappedGT, son of Papa TrappedGT, and I can wreck this guy. I got a scar. I got an RPG. So let's go take this guy on. And so I start building over there. And I'm like, okay, what the heck is this? What's he doing? And I just get blasted in the back. I'm like, dude, what the heck? That was a cheap shot. And so I'm like, alright, you know what? I can recover from this. I got my 8 minis. I got my 3 med kits. So I'm not even worried. But when I go to peek this guy, he's gone. I'm like, what in the world? He is a ghost. So I'm like, you know what? I can't let this guy get away. He shot me. So I see him right there. I'm like, oh, he's a no skin. I got him. And then I get wrecked by a no skin. Now, if you're any better than me, which isn't hard to beat, you could have easily taken him out and maybe even won the game. Who knows? You know, if you take my route, you get fully looted up. You don't get wrecked right away. And then, you know, you should end up with a scar and an RPG, and you may even make it out of Tilted alive. Who knows? Well, guys, that's it for this video. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, subscribe. And let me know down in the comments if this route worked for you. And then one last thing. Troikality has a brand new Twitter, and link will be in the description. It is just at Troikality YT. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you in the next one.